go. We're just going to check things are actually running whilst we're looking at stuff. Focus slowly easing their way in. So of course do make sure to stick the answers to the warm-up question in the chat. That's probably a good place to actually end that. Drop that to there. Click some buttons. Let the encoder return to normal. And then we'll hit the button. Green light. Hey, there we go. Hey, look, I didn't accidentally poison myself this week. What a start to the show. We'll give folk a couple more moments to get in and stuff before we really kick off, so don't worry too much. Should be said, I have discovered my new favourite video, because sometimes I obviously talk a lot about like keeping the algorithm hamster fat and fed and everything. It should be said though that sometimes the YouTube algorithm does chuck up some fantastic things, and what it chucked up for me was angry Arsenal fans, like Twitch streaming Arsenal fans reacting to losing to Bournemouth, which if you don't know, I'm a Bournemouth fan. I've been watching AFC Bournemouth since 1999. So thanks YouTube. That was a great cathartic 15 minutes I just spent. A lot of people plumping for Mars over the Mars ice cream bar. I genuinely am not sure. This was the thing. This is why I thought I'd ask. I thought I'd be interested to see what people said. But yeah, a few bits and pieces obviously to get rocking and rolling with. Of course, all the action. I'm just gonna. Where am I gonna put that? I'm gonna put that there for a minute, just so it is out of the way. And let's see. Oh, Andrew being the first person brave enough out loud to say he'd plump for the Mars ice cream. So there we go. It's not just him. But either way, I think it's probably looking at the time, and given the fact that we have 5 divisions worth of games to talk about, including 3 days worth of national division games to talk about, we should probably get going. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary, it is Wednesday night. Back we belong. It is 8 p.m. and welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to take you through the weird, wonderful and wacky world that is the National Ice Hockey League. Here in Great Britain, we focus on the National Division. That is our bread and butter. That is our home port. But of course, we are here to go through every game from all the divisions across the NIHL. That is the National Division, as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north and in the south. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Wednesday. Massive thank you for your understanding and everything last week, of course. Getting ill just before the show, doing the show on Friday whilst games were being played. Bit different, obviously, but we are back where we belong. On a Wednesday night, in front of the hockey shelf, here in the library at BOTW Towers. We genuinely do call this room the library here just because it is where all the books are stashed. So, but yes, much better setup this year, I think, all things considered. It's just better than my kitchen. My kitchen was fun, and obviously everybody enjoyed looking at the reindeer and the bowling pin for a while. But now, bit of a better space, found a way to be able to stream properly in here, and I think it just works. It makes the show so much better. So really, really pleased about that. But either way, there is a lot to talk about this week. Slough and Chelmsford beating lumps out of each other. Josh Kelly just beating Cam Hamill, and all of the action from across everywhere. But of course, a little bit of housekeeping, as we always do at the top of the show, whether you're old or new. If you're old, hum along. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL. Of course, thank you for continuing to join me on our Banners on the Road series, my weird weaving journey through British hockey. And of course, we've got an audio special this week from the Berkshire Bees versus Bristol Pitbulls game from this past Sunday. I saw Bristol win. I saw Tommy Napier win. Where is the beer bottle? I'll answer that in a second, Colin. So Banners on the Road from this past week is an audio special, and it of course you can go back all the way through all the games from the Banners on the Road is now, what are we, 1 and a bit seasons in, so you can go back and all the random places I've gone to across Britain, and that little dip over to Europe as well back in March. But you can keep up with stuff there, and it's an audio one this week purely because, of course, Hockey Stories are my long-form content series that I do, whether it's written, whether it's audio, long-form stories. And the reason why it's an audio version this week is because the new Hockey Stories is ready. It comes out this coming Tuesday. So I'm not at any hockey this weekend. I'm taking the weekend to go take my little boy to go see his granddad, my dad, down on the Kent coast. But to not leave you hanging and have too long without any content, the brand new Hockey Stories is coming this coming Tuesday evening. What happens when you get off the carousel? What happens when the music stops? An in-depth look at what it means and what it feels like to retire from hockey. That's coming up next week. But of course, you can check back for all the Banners on the Road, all the hockey stories in the last 13 and a half years worth of stuff over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. And the other bit, of course, is thank you for joining us live. Here we are every Wednesday, unless I accidentally poison myself or end up commentating on a game somewhere. But we are here usually Wednesday night, 8 PM, here on the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel. So all the usual YouTube stick. Please do subscribe to the channel. I want to try and see if we can get close to 500 subscribers by the end of the season, which for a YouTube channel that specialises in making videos about 2nd, 3rd and 4th Division British hockey, I don't think it's unreasonable. But we've got plenty of game reviews like the Bees versus Pitbulls one, interviews with the movers and shakers of British hockey, players, coaches, owners, all those kind of things here. Hockey Story series, for example, only one outlet has spoken to anybody for any of the Dopses, and it's here at BOGW, so if you want to check that out, you can do as well. Like the video. If you're watching live, share the video as well. But that's the great bit, of course, is that the live show means that you guys get to get involved. It's not a monologue, it is a conversation, which means you get to use the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to chuck in as we talk our way through the last week or so of NIHL hockey. But if you do want to join in the conversation, then please do abide by the golden rule here at BOTW. That is DBAD, don't be a dick, be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we're going to have a wonderful time. Colin, who regularly pops into the show, where is the beer bottle? The beer bottle, the unopened bottle, as it were, that was in the crate of beers given to me at the end of the final Bison season for my efforts in kind of volunteering. It's in the kitchen. It lives in the corner of the kitchen, out of the way. Trying to keep it in the out of direct sunlight, because I've said until it is absolutely 100% confirmed that the Bison are gone or the Bison come back, that bottle will remain shut and closed in my house. I may have to move it around at some stage, but at the moment it lives in the kitchen by the back door to keep it cool. I do not know what day that will be opened, but it will be opened one day. I am 100% certain of that, and I'm sure. I mean, it's Budweiser. It's not the best tasting beer in the world either way, but I do know that it'll be opened either in ecstasy or agony, one way or the other. Mike there up in Telford. We've got a fair bit to talk about Telford in a moment, of course, talking about the fact that they've got their new sort of wheelie crew, the disabled section for folks with wheelchairs and stuff like that, to all go and watch the game together, which I think is pretty cool, all things considered. Folk with disabilities, both visible and not, should be able to enjoy hockey as much as the rest of us. So shout out to Telford for making some accommodations. But actually, let's start with Telford, because of course, a bit of an all over the place week for the Tigers. Of course, winning away in Sheffield on Friday night in overtime. Of course, when we get to the National Division results, we'll talk more about that. Then they win on Sunday against Hull as well, and then drop the bombshell on Monday. The first import of the year has been released with the news that Zach Yokoyama has been released from his contract by Telford. And there's obviously a lot of people having a lot of sort of questions. Why Yokoyama? 13 points in 12 games, over a point per game. But with Telford's poor run of form, with lots of, with clearly some changes needing to be made. Devon Skaleski as well getting injured in Friday's game against the Steel Dogs, taking a nasty knee-on-knee hit from Henry Adams, who, given it's Wednesday evening, will probably be discussed by Dops tonight ahead of some sort of decision being communicated to Telford tomorrow. Unfortunately for Yokoyama, kind of the odd man out in the situation there. Where does Yokoyama go? There's obviously a lot of talk, and the first person that sort of put it out loud, having done some digging around with it, was Dylan Pick. For Dylan, if you don't know Dylan, he commentates for the Nottingham Lions, but he's also a trainee journalist. I think it's Sheffield Hallam. I don't want to get the wrong university because he'll shout at me for it. But Dylan was the first one to report on Yokoyama joining Romford. Is certainly the word doing the rounds at the moment. But Dylan, in his journalistic capacity, is calling that as something that is going to happen, which is announced now. Is it out? Is it out? In which case, Dylan has gotten that before most people, he says, quickly flicking the thing. Romford have put this on Facebook, haven't they? Which is really annoying. Romford Raiders IHC. There is the news about Tom Brown. Where is the news about Yokoyama? Because I am yet to see that. What was happening here? It's my Twitter having a funny 5 minutes as well. That's probably not going to help, is it? Can't see it anywhere. But either way, like I say, if it has been announced, fine. But certainly, like I say, Dylan Pick in his journalistic capacity, the ones that kind of certainly has put it out there that Zach Yokoyama will be joining Romford. If the Raiders have announced it, fair play to Dylan on getting that one out there. But of course, that meant that somebody had to come in to Telford. We'll come back to Romford in a minute because there's certainly some other news coming out of there. And he says, quickly pulling up the news article, because Telford did not rest on their laurels in terms of releasing Yokoyama, because they have 2 new players have come in. Nothing on Insta and Facebook at the moment. No, I was going to say I hadn't seen anything there, but like I say, certainly Dylan out there reporting it. So if he's managed to beat everyone to the punch, then fair play to him. But yeah, Telford announcing 2 new Canadian imports in the form of David Thompson and Eric Henderson. So Thompson, 27 years old, experience. Good experience in some major junior leagues out west. Time in the NAHL and the East Coast League before playing in Europe. And Henderson, who played with some very, very good players in the OHL, then went and played in U Sports in the university leagues and the like. Therefore, playing in the SPHL. Both of these guys are joining Telford from STS Sanok in the Polish league. Pretty good division, obviously Poland. You know, there's a fair few half decent Poles have played over here. Shout out to Tomasz Malazinski. Sanok not having the best of years, all things considered. The Polish League at the moment is 9 teams. Sanok are 8th out of 9. Only 2 wins in their 14 games played. So Telford and Sanok actually kind of in a similar kind of position, needing to shuffle the deck slightly, given the fact that results are not coming their way. I was going to say, in fact, having a quick. Just wanted to have a quick squiz at some of my bits and pieces. That's not going to work, is it? Because I think actually Telford will have now won. Telford will have now won 3 games to 3 games to Sanok's 2. So there we go on that front. But but all things considered, you know, if you're going to release Yokoyama and you've got Skaleski injured as well, although I should say I'm very, very interested as to what happens here, because of course you've now got Devon Skaleski injured for Telford. You've got Vladimir Luka still playing, and these 2 new Canadian lads coming in, which of course not just as the fact for Yokoyama having now departed and seemingly on his way down to Essex. What you've also got as well is that's Vladimir Luka and Devon Skaleski on notice as well. Really, obviously they do need that kind of injury cover for Skaleski. I know some people have been higher on him than I have. I know Jack Mack from Macca's Talk Hockey has been higher on Skaleski than I've been. I wasn't massively impressed with what I've seen of him so far. Obviously, though, don't wish a guy ill and you never wish a guy injured. But I think these 2 new guys coming in for Telford really fires a shot across the bow for both him and Vladimir Luka. So having a look. So just at the bottom here, subject to successful transfer of the players to the club, the Canadian duo is expected to travel from Poland to the UK in the next week and will be part of training and playing squad with immediate effect. So I have not, in the immediacy, seen anything from the Tigers to say that both of these guys are going to play this weekend. I await Mike popping up in the chat to tell me otherwise. But certainly a sizable move that I think probably a lot of people would argue was needed from Telford in that perspective. It's not started well. They've got some really, really high quality youngsters in that side, like Finley Howes, like Rhodes Mitchell-King, guys that you would be expecting to be able to do some real damage in this league, and the team has not quite performed up to spec in that sense. No, nothing out of the Tigers immediately saying that both those guys will be will be icing. So as we said though, by the looks of it, a lot of talk, like I say, reported by at least one person that Yokoyama is heading to Romford. But of course, we've had other news out of Romford as well in the last day or so, and that is that Tom Brown, of course, fantastic last couple of years with Billingham, came into the National Division to back up the Raiders. He's been in and out. He's been in and out of the lineup. Reasons that have not really sort of been specified. Of course, we saw Max Van Mullen, the 16-year-old netminder for the Buccaneers, step up and do a really, really good job in pre-season when Brown was absent. But Brown has been released from his contract. There's no word as to in the immediacy as to where he will go. But certainly there has been a potential pretty sizable signal as to who will be replacing him, with the news out of the Invicta Dynamos of South 1 that Owen Ryder has been released by the club. Ryder, who guested for the Bristol Pitbulls earlier this season when both Tommy Napier and Tyler De La Batouche were injured, so he got 2 games for Bristol earlier this year. He's been splitting ice time in Kent with Brad Windibank, the former Raiders netminder. Windibank sort of moving on, having had a bad couple of years where he had a lot of injury issues, Brad, and he's been playing pretty well. The two of them have been splitting time down in Kent, and now, by the looks of it, probably, given the proximity of things, it was not going to be a huge surprise when Owen Ryder rocks up and appears in Raiders gold and blue before too long. Like I say, we await both sort of official confirmations on those at the moment. Karen, I can see, has popped into the chat. There's always one Tigers fan who'll pop in and say something. No guarantees, but pending paperwork. The hope is they will be. So we could see Henderson and Thompson, these 2 new boys, rocking up in orange and black for the weekend, which, given they get to play Romford, if Yokoyama ends up there, this is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. The other thing that leaves about Romford is if Zach Yokoyama is stepping in his injury cover, how bad is that injury to player coach Adam Leishram? Obviously not a great weekend for the Raiders, a 0-point weekend for them, which has not happened a lot this season. Although I did warn Raiders fans in the programme, enjoy the ride while it lasts, because not every weekend is going to be perfect. But yes, getting that extra body in. Yokoyama does not offer the same, exactly the similar game as Leishram for sure, but certainly that sort of decent hands, decent goal scoring ability, which will actually, you'd hope, kind of fit in. And also, it should be said, Yokoyama as a player will suit Romford down to a T. If he gets himself stuck in and gets himself involved, then Raiders fans, I think, will be very, very happy with any temporary acquisition. Of course, we await for the club's official confirmation thereof, but like I said, it seems to be, it's been doing the rounds. We've had at least one person kind of, from a journalistic perspective, say that they're confirming that that's happening. We await all official news, I suppose, is the way forward on that one. Either way, we should probably do the business and have a look at how things have gone in the National Division, because it was a busy, busy weekend as well. Friday Night Lights into the bargain. Ooh, pressed the wrong button there. Let's not do that. Let's not break everything immediately, Anthony. There we go. There we go, that's what we want there. So yes, into Friday, and 2 games of course that happened on Friday as we were streaming here, last week's episode of the What's Current stream, when I was not massively incapacitated. But a 3-3 weekend for the Bristol Pitbulls did not start well. A 6-3 win for the MK Lightning, who were well out of sight, 6-0 up by the 37th minute in this one. A couple of goals for Max Stewart, as well as goals for Ross Venus, Martin Susters. Ross Venus with 2. Ross Venus with 2, Max Stewart with 2, Martin Susters and Harry Gulliver with the other goals. Once the Pitbulls did stage a bit of a fight back in the third period, 2 goals from Bailey Herbert and 1 from Rhys Smetham, getting them on the board as well. But very similar to that kind of game between the Lightning and the Bees down in Slough that was on Banners on the Road. MK just kind of let things slip a little bit when they had the game well in control. And then, as we mentioned, it was after what's been a pretty torrid start to the season for the Telford Tigers, Rhodes Mitchell-King walks it off in overtime. The Steel Dogs have had a bit of a habit this year of putting themselves into holes 2-0 and 3-1 down at one point, but pulling their way back. Goals in regulation for the Tigers from Joe Aston and 2 from Vlad Luca. Then goals from the Steel Dogs from John Kirk, Sam Tremblay and Walker Summer. But then, as you can see there, it's Rhodes Mitchell-King from Finley Howes. We talked about them, those 2 big, exciting young prospects really doing the business, and they get Telford's weekend off to a good start. That then takes us into Saturday, and sorry to the Raiders fans, It was not a good start, but it was a top of the table clash at the beginning of the weekend, if nothing else, and a 4-2 win down in Romford for the Leeds Knights. I think kind of seeing here as well for the fact that the Raiders 2-1 to the good and then concede 3 goals inside the last 8 and a bit minutes here. And maybe this is the issue for Romford right now, is they found themselves in a position that they haven't been in for quite some time since their Division 1 days. And this is the difference between the Raiders and the Knights, where a side that has learned how to win in these big moments at this level and a side that is still learning how to do it. Raiders ahead early through a Jake Sylvester short-handed goal. Sean Miller with the other goal for them on the power play. Ollie Endicott, Matt Bissonette, Matt Barron and Matt Hayward, quite literally Matt Paint all over the place there, but the Knights come out with the win. Just checking that the graphics are keeping up with what I'm doing there. Yes, and then the Steel Dogs, well, having got a point the night before, they got absolutely put to the sword in another round of the Yorkshire Derby. The Hull Seahawks rebounding from some inconsistent form recently, as Matty Davies was resting up after getting his knee fixed, and sat. I'm not sure whether he was at home or in his hospital bed when I was speaking to him on Saturday night, but he wasn't worried about his knee when I spoke to him, when it was an 8-2 Seahawks win. A goal as well for Josh Hodgkinson. He's been confirmed as now joining the Seahawks. He will join fully towards later on in November once he's sorted out life and work elsewhere. But goals, a couple of goals from Owen Bruton as well as Owen Sobchak, Hodgkinson, who you mentioned as well, James Baird, Johnny Cornell, Tom Stubley, and a short-handed goal at the end for Deck Jones. Nathan Ripley and Sam Tremblay with the goals for the Steel Dogs. And then Telford had a mare in this one. Another one where they were doing 3 games. Another team doing 3 games in 3 days. And well, they had the big result away on Saturday, and then on Sunday they got absolutely shellacked. I mean, not only did they have to go down to Swindon, they had to go down to Swindon, Bavaria for Oktoberfest night down in Wiltshire, and it's an absolute pumping there as well. 3 of the 4 Tigers goals coming in the third period, and the game is well beyond reach. Jake Bricknell getting goals, even Jay Warren stepping up into the lineup for the Wildcats and getting some ice time, and also getting a goal in the third period. Certainly been taking his opportunities. Kind of had to lead the line for the Wildcats too in South 1, but good to see him taking the opportunity to get himself on the score sheet. And actually scoring his first goal since the 22-23 season, because he didn't score a goal at all in 23-24. So congrats to Jay Warren for getting on the score sheet at National Division level. Karen, I can see there, I blame the Swindon jerseys, gave me a headache editing photos, reckon the players were blinded. I mean, they weren't nice at all. 100% credit for the effort, and I mentioned as well, like, credit to Swindon as well. They've been trying a few different things this year, many more kind of sort of special, sort of theme nights than they've had for quite some time. But yeah, those were definitely not for me. Nor is Dortmunder beer from Bavaria either. But you can't blame folk for the geographic issues sometimes if they don't know the ins and outs. Elsewhere on Saturday, then it was Saturday appears to be the best night for the Bees. They seem to have got themselves into the habit of winning on Saturdays and losing on Sundays, but they got themselves a 4-2 win away in Bristol against the Pitbulls. 2 goals from Nick Price for the hosts, Marcel Balash, Adam Rossbottom, Will Stead and Vanya Antonov for the Bees. The issue coming out of this one was that Marcel Balash did pick up an injury. He would not ice on the Sunday. And then the last game from Saturday saw a pretty good win and a good result for Jordan Marr as he faced his former employers, the Peterborough Phantoms, up at the Shark Tank. Pretty comfortable 7-2 win for the Sharks in this one. A hat-trick from Nolan Gardenier, who else, as well as goals from Mason Alderson, Joey Coulter, Lewis Young and Watbar John Dunbar. Goals for the Phantoms coming from Austin Mitchell-King and Tom Palmer. That takes us then into Sunday, and yeah, sorry Sharks, it wasn't it wasn't be a 4-point win for Martin Grubb's side. And the Steel Dogs, well, they recover after having a pretty tough weekend, all things considered. Another, like I say, 3-3 for them as well. But Sam Tremblay with a couple of goals as well from El Mori Helfors and Morgan Clark Pizzo, giving them the 5-2 win over Solway. Joey Coulter and Stuart Kerr with the goals for the Sharks, and I think there tells you something about the Sharks' issues there. The top line's not really getting rocking and rolling. Should be said. Good evening to Mr. Beale, who I see has joined the chat. But yeah, if your goals are coming from Joey Coulter and Stuart Kerr, it means that somehow Gardner's been shut down, or Alderson's been shut down, or Dunbar has been shut down. And you're never going to win hockey games like that if you're relying on Stuart Kerr for goals. That only works in North One Cup finals. That then that was of course carrying on with Sunday, and a few of us at the Bees Pitbulls game were watching this over the shoulder of Jack Mack, because he was streaming it on his phone, watching it at the same time. But a huge win in the context of the title race, potentially, for the Milton Keynes Lightning. 2-1 down, 2-0 down, in fact, heading into the 55-minute mark, and the Lightning win in the shootout. Ed Nags making it 2-1, and Dylan Lawrence with the goalie pulled with 19 seconds to play, sent it to overtime. Goals in regulation for the Knights coming from Matt Bissonnette. But then in the shootout, it is the man with the plan, Tim Wallace, who nearly started the fight with Tyler De La Bertuccia on the Friday, but on the Sunday he was all smiles and definitely not worrying about any potential injury he might have been given by the young Pitbulls goalie. He pots the winning penalty shot, and it is a maximum weekend for the Lightning. And then, as we said, sorry Romford, but ultimately Peterborough 7-2 up at one point in this game. The Raiders with a bit of a late push, but ultimately a pretty comprehensive win again at home from the Phantoms, who've been rock solid at Breton all year. Hat-trick from Luke Ferrara, as well as goals from Brad Bowering, Yanni Lacken and Cam Huff, and Joe Gretton, who scores one of his few goals that he'll generally pick up this year. 2 goals from Andrew Schufelt, 1 from Sean Miller and 1 from Jake Sylvester for the Raiders. And then there was the game I was at, which of course, like I say, you can check out the audio special banners on the road for this one. Bees 2, Pitbulls 3. So yep, Tommy Napier has finally won a game in British hockey. I was there to see it with my own 2 eyes. The first period was appalling. It was not a good game, the first period at all, but gradually progressed as it went on. It was a game that had a bit of everything. It had a fight that was a complete non-event. It had Josh Kelly put out their box Cam Hamill straight on the nose, but ultimately, it's the Pitbulls who get all the points out of this one. Cam Hamill putting with a fantastic tip in off of a shot that I swear was from Reece Cochran rather than Hill. But what do I know in such circumstances? Bees tight up in the second period with a power play goal from Liam Morris as he pounced on a rebound off of the pads of Napier. 2-1 to the Bees early in the third period. A great bit of play by Josh Poole, 16 years old, and from having spoken to Joe Scutts of NHL Stats, and of course the Bees commentator, 16 minutes of ice time in this game for Josh Poole on his 2-way contract from the Cardiff Canucks. A very impressive, very accomplished performance for such a young man, and a really solid assist to help Will Stead convert to give the Bees the lead. But a power play goal from Barry McKenzie, great bit of work this, and a lovely slap pass from Tanner Butler to set up Barry McKenzie, who sort of managed to find half a gap for the puck to breathe through the pads of Max Wright, and then a beautiful bar down effort from Reece Smetham gives the Pitbulls the points, their second win of the season. And the last game from Sunday, well, Tigers recover after getting pumped the night before, but they win by 7-5. Zach Yokoyama signs off his time as a Telford Tiger with a 1+3 evening, scoring the first goal and getting a few assists into the bargain. 2 goals as well from Adam Harding, 2 from Finley Howes, 1 from Vlad Luka and 1 from the old campaigner himself, Scott McKenzie. Goals from the Seahawks coming for 2 from Bobby Chamberlain, 1 from Lee Hayward, 1 from Owen Sobchuk and 1 from Lee Bonner. So what this means is here is the cup table as it stands. So this is the cup table, not the league table. And as we can see at the moment, a top 4 as things stand of Leeds, Sheffield, MK, and Romford. That would be the semi-finals if things were played today. Of course, not all teams have played the requisite amount of games. Hull have only played 4 games in the cup so far, so there is a lot of scope for things to change in this one. But it is the Knights who are in the driving seat in the cup table so far. But what that means is, if we look at the league table, is that things are different there. The MK Lightning at the top of the table, 18 points from 11 games, so a game in hand over the Leeds Knights, and 3 points clear of the Hull Seahawks as well. Means that the Lightning are top by right and can't be overtaken at the moment. Sheffield then in fourth place. Followed by Romford, of course, dropping down following their 0-point weekend. Peterborough also on 14 points, but Romford hold the tiebreaker. Peterborough have played a game more. Swindon 13 from 9, so they've got some catching up to do in terms of games. The Bees then occupying the last playoff spot at the moment after their 2-point weekend, 9 points from 12 games for them. Solway 7 from 11. Telford now overtaking Bristol. Both teams on 6 points from 12 games, but because of Telford's win over Bristol, they hold the head-to-head record. So the Pitbulls get the Pitbulls have their second win of the season, but unfortunately drop down to the bottom of the table as a result. We then have a look at the fixtures for this upcoming weekend into spooky season, good and proper. Of course, a few teams will be doing their Halloween shirts this weekend, some the weekend after. But this is this upcoming Saturday down at the Hangar for the Bees and the Hull Seahawks. The Bristol Pitbulls host the Telford Tigers in that bottom of the table clash. Could we see the new Tigers imports? We remains to be seen. But either way, a big game at the base of the table. Yorkshire Derby time again for the Leeds Knights and the Sheffield Steel Dogs at the Castle. MK hosts Swindon. That'll be a very, very interesting game, given and probably arguably the biggest test of the Wildcat season so far. Solway host Romford, and that'll be a nice long journey on a Saturday evening for the folk from Essex. On Sunday then, Hull take on the Bees at the World's Most Versatile Arena. Peterborough host Solway in Breton. Sheffield versus MK, a big statement game this for the Sheffield Steel Dogs if they really want to establish themselves as a title contender. The Battle of the South West, will it be red or blue come the end of Sunday evening as the Wildcats host the Bristol Pitbulls, and Telford host Romford, so some fantastic implications in there as well. A couple of games though coming up during the week. Of course, half term in a lot of places coming up on the 29th, so next Tuesday, and a Yorkshire Derby at 7:30 at Sheffield between the Steel Dogs and the Seahawks. And then next week, as we will be live on the show, Telford and Peterborough, a 7:45 face-off in Shropshire for those guys. So there we go. That's the National Division done for this week. So questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, do stick things in the chat. I can see as people are putting in. Raiders rested Ethan James on Sunday. Certainly can't blame Brown for them all. Lee Ferrara in front on his own, and guess what? Yes. Generally, he will score. He will score goals. Will Lee Ferrara? That's unfortunately the nature of the beast. But if nothing else, I think as well, like the whole point really of having a backup. If you're going to have a backup like Tom Brown, he should be playing games, really, if we're honest with ourselves. You can't have a guy... Like, goalies can... not even goalies in the NHL play 82 games. Some of them will play 50, will play 60. But they're also getting rest. Like, they're not literally playing every single game. That's not ideal for anybody to have to really kind of do. Apologies, I've got a bit of a hangnail. So, yeah, a bit of a strange one on that one. But obviously... wishing Tom Brown all the best. I mean, there's a lot of conversation, really. Where does Tom Brown go? Billingham, of course, we'll touch on it in a bit. Top of the table in North 1, going along pretty handily. The chance of him going home look relatively slim. Blackburn, I've got Ben Keddy. Unlikely they're going to want to swap things out. Graham Laverick in Solihull, unlikely to be displaced there. If he is... I mean, there's obviously now... It's obviously now an opening in Invicta because Owen Ryder's gone. Does Tom Brown maybe drop a division and go play in South One, and have a crack there and split some time in Brad Windybank? The Bees don't have a permanent backup netminder. Does Tom Brown become an option for them instead? Obviously, some teams in North One, if he went back home to Billingham, does he potentially become an option for Whitley? Does he cross the Great Divide of the North East, or does he try maybe going to somewhere like Leeds and giving Norton a bit of a rest there? Does he go to Widnes, who are struggling? They're down goalies at the moment, of course, because they've got injuries as well. Their young netminder at Widnes suffering a concussion, getting hit in the head twice in 2 plays was pretty bad. So where Tom Brown ends up kind of remains to be seen. Should be a topic of discussion for the next while. Or does he just take a moment to just sit back and wait and see who really wants him? It's happened enough before. It's the old Dean Skins trick of waiting and seeing who wants him. But there's certainly there will be openings, certainly as well for a player like Brown. Eventually, probably something will open up at Division 1 level for him as an absolute minimum, given the fact that national final experience, North One winning keeper last year with Billingham, kind of the best net minus statistics in North One last year. So it's not a it wouldn't surprise me to see him rock up somewhere. Hopefully, agreed. Hopefully, you'll sign a new backup soon. Like I said, I think probably the fact that Invicta have announced Owen Ryder is leaving and and the fact that that Romford have announced that Tom Brown is going, I would probably throw that horseshoe on that hand grenade into that region, if I'm 100% honest. MK Thunder have 2 injured keepers at the moment. With all the will in the world, I do not see Tom Brown rocking up at MK right now. Yeah, but obviously quite a problem. They've got 2 injured keepers at the minute, as we saw. We'll touch on it when it comes to it in a little bit. But yes, a stand-in goalkeeper midway through the game for the MK Thunder at this past weekend. Looking at some of the other news that's flying about, obviously not a signing for the Berkshire Bees, but certainly the fact they have announced that they do have a guest joining them. At the moment, they have Petr Cech joining them on Tuesday nights to sort of as a training goalie. No signing to the official roster as of yet for Cech. Of course, played for the Guildford Phoenix, played for the Oxford City Stars, briefly appeared for the Belfast Giants in the Elite League. He only needs the National League to complete the set. So if Max Wright gets injured, we all know what's happening in that front. But of course, it should also be said his third team Petr Cech has played on with Marcus Mitchell. So friends from their title winning, their Grand Slam winning Guildford Phoenix days. But yeah, certainly the situation there, of course, is that the Bees two-way netminders, of course, have the 2 netminders from the Cardiff Canucks, but they train on a Tuesday, and it's a case of it's a case of just needing somebody who's available to stand there and take shots, and give why not? If you're Petr Cech, keeps your eye in if nothing else. Sigala joining the chat, Swindon fan. Massey is still out injured in Swindon. Ben has been playing brilliantly. But will we look to have one of the 2 netties in depending on Brett's injury? I would be surprised, given the fact that he would need somewhere to stay because Tom Brown is originally from Billingham. I'd be massively surprised if Swindon's Division 1 team signed a netminder who required accommodating in that way. I venture, probably just lean into Clark Leach playing a lot of minutes and hope that John Dibble is available. Is probably where you go on that one. Or your under-18s keeper is about to get a lot more ice time in Swindon, but I'd be hugely surprised to see Tom Brown rock up for what is effectively a project development team in the biggest sense, like the Wildcats 2 are, if we're honest with ourselves. Just quickly checking the news, just making sure, see if there's anything else. He says knocking the platform that his laptop is on, which is a bit of a strange one. Just checking as well. No other huge news. Of course, Halloween jerseys starting to make some appearances. Solent Devils have lent into their name incredibly hard. The Bees have probably done the best one, which is the Ghostbusters one. Sorry, the Ghostbuzzers one. Not a huge fan of Peterborough's, not a huge fan of MK's, not a huge fan of Halloween jerseys, if I'm 100% honest. It's not my thing. But so obviously, like I said, heading into spooky season, given that Halloween is next Thursday night. So we will see probably a few bits this weekend, probably a few bits next weekend as well, given the fact that you'll have a few games on the 1st of November and the like. So should not be too much of that. Any extra news I can see from a National Division perspective? Not that I can see. Just a few bits and pieces. That's from Austria, so we will leave that for the time being on that one. And then in which case, let's have a squiz. He says, pressing the buttons and hoping everything works. Let's have a quick squiz. What have I done there? Oops. Oh dear, what have I pressed there? There we go. Press magic button. Magic thing happen. Let's have a look at the rest of the National Ice Hockey League structure as it goes, as we head up to have a look at North 1. And we talked about Tom Brown, we talked about Billingham, but a pretty comfortable Saturday League and Cup encounter for them. Sheffield, of course, sprung the surprise the week before, defeating the top of the table Hull Jets, but no 2 in a row for them, unfortunately. They are dispatched relatively handily by the Billingham Stars by 5 goals to 1 at ice. Sheffield pulling it back to pulling back to 1-1. It was 1-1 after 5 minutes here. Ian Brown's goal counted out by Christian Pelling, but Brown would get his second, would eventually get his hat-trick on the night, and goals from James Moss and Lucas Dowdle would make sure that this was quite calm and straightforward for Billingham. What we'll be interested to see is a couple of penalties out of this one. Justin Dennison being thrown out for boarding, Sean Galloway thrown out for fighting in the both in the second period there. Shuggy, of course, no particular stranger to the rough stuff. Not huge benches for either side, it should be said. Jacob Hammond taking the majority of the ice time there, only facing 13 shots, whereas Nick Winters faces 43. Mad game at the Castle for Leeds Knights NHL 1 roster, who of course have now got themselves on social media, and you're not reading that wrong. 24 minutes into this game, Solihull were 5-0 up. So Solihull scored 5 goals. Leeds came back and tied the game at 5-5 before Solihull won in OT, it should be said. However, what a massive comeback from Leeds. Absolutely superb performance from them. And ultimately, probably not really rewarded. It should be said in this one, and all the sort of, by that early point in the second period, you'd be thinking that the game would be home and hosed, but no, a late goal there in the second period from Fritz Heinzler, getting Leeds on the board, and then for whatever reason they just absolutely explode in the third period. Yet to read much of a match report, because Solihull are alarmingly quiet on social media, and Leeds I think of relying on Owen Dell to do anything for them. Another one though that might potentially get looked at: Dylan Harcourt being thrown out for a check to the head penalty in the first period, which probably did not help matters there. But as we can see, I don't know whether this is Mulcahy or Mulcahy, because I've heard it both pronounced in both ways. We'll go for Mulcahy. 2 goals for Dan Mulcahy, 1 for Phil Mulcahy, 2 for Bailey Challenger, 1 for Nicholas Otterson on the night there. For the night's goals from, like I said, Bailey Perry, Tom Dermott, Owen Dell, and 2 goals for Fritz Heinzler in that one. Dan Norton, 6 goals on 47 shots. Graham Laverick, 5 on 34. Another game as well that had something of a comeback in it, where was Blackburn and Whitley. Whitley, though, getting the edge here, 4-1 up in this one before Blackburn fought their way back in the third period. But the Warriors taking the 3 points back up to Hillheads. The Hawks have such a strange season where they've looked so good at moments, and at other moments been just not been able to kind of pull results out, despite the fact that there was a lot of confidence heading into this year following last year's playoff win. Aaron Davis, Jacob Lutwich, and James Royds with the goals for the Hawks. Dean Holland, Lewis, Chris, Phil Edgar, and Ethan Reed on the score sheet for the Warriors in this one. We then heading into Sunday, and Leeds, there ain't no grand comeback here, though they did lead. Edgar Svenges getting the Knights on the board. They led until the 8-minute 31 mark, and then Billingham said, "No sunshine, we're not playing this game." 10-1 win for the Stars in this one, absolutely hammering the youngsters from Yorkshire in the Forum. A huge game. Ian Brown now on 15 goals in 9 games for the Stars so far this season. Another hat-trick for him. 2 goals as well for Roland Grittans and Conor McNulty, James Moss, Chris Sykes, and Callum Wilkinson with the other goals there. Just an absolute demolition, and poor Dan Norton left in for all of it, which seems a bit of a strange one to me. Solihull, well, they nearly threw it away the night before, and ultimately they don't get the job done at home. Beaten at Hobbs Moat Road by the Deeside Dragons by a score of 7-2. If you've not seen the Jake Witkowski penalty shot, try and hunt it out on the Dragons social media page. It is a thing of beauty. But another hat-trick for him as the Dragons comfortably walk away with a win. Now 6-2 on the season are the Dragons. They didn't start brilliantly in some of the with some of their results in the. But they've turned it around. Witkowski, a massive catalyst for them, as well as a debut this past weekend for Gary Simpson. The Mulcahy brothers getting the goals for the Barons. A hat-trick for Jakob Hayek, a hat-trick for Jack Witkowski, Matt Wainwright with the other goal after and Phil Pearson getting the time this weekend between the pipes. No Matt Croyle on this occasion. Both netminders getting some ice time for the Barons here. And then Widnes. Poor Widnes. it should be said. Talk about timing there, Graham. I've just looked at the chat and you've just appeared just as we're about to talk about this massacre that Blackburn have just put on them. As close to a rugby score as you can get. Widnes 2, Blackburn 16. It's been an absolutely torrid season so far for the Wild, getting 2 goals towards the end of the second period there. Another goal for Bailey Thompson, 5 on the year for him in 8 games, which, given the fact he is 17, is not terribly bad. But yes, it is a very lopsided event. A hat-trick for Andy McKinney, his first 3 goals since joining the Hawks in this one, as a game where everybody pads their stats rather comfortably. But yeah, as we can see here, hat-tricks for Adam Barnes, hat-trick for Andy McKinney, 4 goals for Jacob Lutwich, 2 for Josh Crawley, goals for James Royds, Lee Pollitt and Dara Spafforth. As we said, yeah, Thomas Rostek and Bailey Thompson with the goals for the Wild, who saw both keepers come in. Logan Reed getting some ice time as well, which is good to see. Ollie Thomason making sure that Ben Keddy had a rest, 2 goals and 29 shots for him. So North 1 then this upcoming weekend, a couple of games on Saturday and 4 on Sunday. Sheffield take on Blackburn at 4:40 at Ice Sheffield. 5:30pm face-off at the world's most versatile arena for the Hull Jets and the Billingham Stars. That could have huge title implications already. And another one of the challengers, 7pm face-off at Hillheads for the Whitley Warriors and the Deeside Dragons, who will then do that dance again the next night, Sunday evening, back at Deeside for the Dragons and the Warriors. Solihull looked to rebound from last weekend's poor home performance against the Dragons as they take on the Sheffield Scimitars at 5:30, and also a 5:30 face-off in Widnes. The Wild see if they can not lose by such a huge score against the Hull Jets. And then 6pm at the Hawks' Nest, Blackburn versus Leeds, Lancashire versus Yorkshire. There is the best sort of derby, as some folk in the north would say. There's the league table then, of course. Not much out of the Jets, but they have been caught and usurped. The Billingham Stars return back to the top of the North 1 table, followed by Hull, Deeside, Whitley, Blackburn, Solihull, Nottingham and Leeds are the top 8 at the moment. Sheffield with just that 1 lone win. Widnes rock bottom, 67 goals conceded in 8 games. 5 games at home as well, all lost. The lowest scorers and the most goals conceded at the moment are the Wild. And we just quickly scoot down to the cup standings. Billingham, Whitley and Deeside all on 9 points in Group A, which means one of those teams is not going to qualify for the next round. And then Hull leading the way in Group B, but Blackburn do have a game in hand. Just quickly squeeze at the chat. Wide open division up in the... It is indeed. It feels very, very open at the moment. I think there's... Those games sort of between each other are going to be huge when it comes down to it, Ben, all things considered. But as Mr. Hyde, 2 years deep into doing 0 pucks to given, so congratulations to him on achieving that milestone. It's time for South 1, which of course is Ben's neck of the woods. And yeah, I mean, it's not 16-2, so you know, what you do in Solent, positively amateurish. But the Oxford City Stars travel down to the south coast and get absolutely pumped. Mario Chiru with the lone goal for the Stars as they lose by 11 goals to 1. I thought Tom Banner would get a nosebleed getting that close up the other end to the point where he would actually be able to score. But domination from Alex Murray's side as off the back of being pretty handily dispatched by Slough the weekend before. A hat-trick for Charlie Wedge, who has massively stepped up this year. He's really been a little bit of a revelation. 2 goals as well for Ollie Cackett, new into the first team this year, as well as goals, as we said, for Tom Banner, Connor Hutchison, Jack Hops, Liam Coleman, Cam Buckle and Ryan Sutton. That's a very short bench Oxford side as well. As you can see, both netliners getting some time here. 49 shots that Ross Miller faces in 40 minutes. Over a shot a minute for him there. Morgan Parsons gets the third. Roy Martin Edwards taking the full 60 minutes here for the Devils. Aaron Taylor unavailable this weekend and Mark Duffy unavailable as well due to work. So Tyler Campbell played for Solent 2 last year. Just been announced as the new backup netminder for the Guildford Phoenix, lending his old employers a hand this past weekend. And whilst And meanwhile, at the top end, certainly at the top end of the table, from out of the middle, a pretty comfortable win for the Streatham Redhawks on the high road. And the big news, of course, there, Ryan Watt with 2 goals on the night. He now has 600 career points in British hockey. Ryan has been a superb character and a superb ambassador for the game for many, many years. A genuinely lovely bloke as well, it should be said, in my interactions with him. And so congratulations to him on a very, very superb milestone from off the back of this past weekend. But yes, 2 goals from Watt, as well as goals from Harvey Stead, Brendan Baird, Danny Ingoldsby, George Norcliffe and J.J. Pitchley. Donald Campbell with the lone goal for the Buccaneers. Although it should be said, given the fact that they've played 8 games so far this season, the Buccaneers, Uri Husker finishing this game with his 10th assist of the season. A very, very important cog in the machine for the Buccaneers so far this year. And Brett Shepherd getting his first ice for the Red Hawks. Nicholas Romars backing up on this occasion here. But yeah, 15 shots for Shepherd as he returns to the high road following his departure from the Bees. Sonny Phillips left to man the net for the Buccaneers in this one. Chelmsford knew they had a big weekend and needed to make a big statement at home on Saturday evening with their double home weekend. They beat the Cardiff Fire by 5 goals to 1. 2 from Ollie Baldock, 2 from Mikey Power and 1 from Dylan Dix. Putting this game pretty much to bed by the half-hour mark. Iwan Davis, we'll go for that with the goal for Cardiff here. But yeah, another one where Chelmsford pretty comfortably kind of sort of dominating their opponents, outshooting them by 56 to 22. A pretty comfortable night for Jordan Lauday, less comfortable for Ben Scanlon. The other game on Saturday evening then, Slough versus MK. Amazingly, this game only had 2 minutes worth of penalties in it, as lots of guys got a lot of ice time here. Jack Goodchild with a couple of goals into the bargain. What I believe is a first senior goal for Edward Cave Humphrey. Not just his first of the year, but lots of guys getting the opportunity to put some numbers up on the board in this one. Matt Smittle and Nate Gregory. Gregory back from injury, of course. He had to sit out for a couple of weeks. Connor Dudley was understudying there, but Nate Gregory now back in and getting an early opportunity. Matt Smittle only facing 2 shots through 40 minutes of play as the Jets combine for a shutout. Kieran Hickman having facing the majority of the shots in this one, as they only played with 1 netminder. As you can see there, 2 for Jack Goodchild. 1 for Jacob Minter, 1 for Christian Moore, 1 for Jacob Soper, 1 for Brandon Miles, 1 for Connor Redmond, 1 for Seth Moore, and as we mentioned, a first senior goal, as far as we're aware, for Edward Cave Humphrey. Into Sunday then, and things went from bad to worse for the MK Thunder. Shut out at home, beaten away quite handily by the Invicta Dynamos, and even worse, as we scroll down through the numbers here, you're not reading that wrong. Kieran Hickman comes out of the game at 29:54 with an injury. He's replaced in net by James Bryan. James Bryan, if you're not familiar, former Basingstoke junior, and is 100% not a goalkeeper. Defenseman having to go in net. I've only ever seen it happen once with my own eyes, which was in Basingstoke, where against Romford many years ago, and I can't remember who it was who got injured. It might have been Michael Gray, but certainly he was replaced by Tom Davies, and that was a very surreal moment to have to watch a guy do that. Yeah, a couple of nice close games for the Thunder for this weekend. And yet, not ideal. Fair play to James Bryan in his first attempt at being a netminder. 23 saves. Let's not worry about how many he conceded, because that was always going to be a bit of a tough one. But 23 saves when you've never played netminder before, and you make that many saves in an NHL 1 Division 1 game. Fair play, mate. Absolutely fair play. I don't give out players of the week, but James Bryan, you get the okay thumbs up from me, mate. Fair play for sticking it in. 1 goal on 35 shots in Owen Ryder's last game as an Invicta Dynamo, and then war on ice. The two of the title contenders going head to head. Oh, that's all gone fuzzy. Why is that all gone fuzzy? There we go. That's better. 2 of the title contenders went head-to-head on Sunday at the Riverside, and the Slough Jets are the ones left flying high. If you've not seen the photograph of Brandon Miles post his fight with Dylan Dix, and I should say this, Chelmsford fans, anybody trying to argue that Dylan Dix won that fight, I would like to direct you to your local opticians, because with all due respect to Dylan Dix, and fair play for stepping up and doing the business, you don't really want your import fighting. But if there's, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Brandon Miles is the last of a dying breed in terms of an enforcer in this country. Brandon Miles won that fight, and won that fight pretty comfortably. There is no contest in this one. Somebody trying to argue that, I saw a couple of people trying to argue that Dix won that fight. He got his jersey pulled over his head and then faced more shots than a five-a-side goal on a Sunday. He didn't win that fight. Sorry, folks. But either way, 3-1 win for the Jets. A huge, huge win. And 3-0 to the good. By the end of the first period, Ollie Hemmings-Mayer, Christian Moore and Jacob Minter with the goals there. A goal in the second period from one of my favourite people in British hockey, Alan Lack. But no way back for the Chieftains, as Slough, as I said, Slough look legit, and Slough prove they are legit, not just by dispatching Solent handily away from home, but going to Chelmsford and beating Chelmsford on their ice into the bargain. Huge statement win. I don't know what's going on here with all this. A huge statement win though for the Jets in this one. Matt Smith with a huge performance as well. 42 shots he faces, concedes just the one goal. Jordan Lauday 3 on 39. Still not terrible numbers, but unfortunately the Chieftains drop a huge 3 points at home. Oxford, well, it was closer than it was the night before at home, but the Buccaneers still get the 3 points. A 4-1 win for Romford at the Oxpens. Oxford ahead early in this one, though. A second goal of the season for Jake Williams, but 2 goals from Uri Husker. Another goal on the weekend for Donald Campbell, and one for Tyrone Wells sees the Buccaneers take the points in this one. And only one netminder for the Raiders for the Buccaneers, in this one, but another win on the campaign for everybody's favourite graphic artist, Max Van Mullen. He concedes 1 on 27, and Ross Miller conceding 4 goals on 36 shots. And then, well, I don't know what you call it, the Battle of the Devil's Lair. Either way, a long old trip for the Solent Devils on Sunday evening down to Cardiff Bay, but the Fire, well, they're still winless. They're still pointless, because they fight a solid 5-1 victory for the Solent Devils in this one. Jack Hops, Alex Murray, Kane Russell. A hat-trick from Alex Murray. I thought that I'd read somewhere that Tom Banner had scored again in this one. That's obviously been changed. Lewis Stevens with the lone goal for the Fire in this one, in a game that saw Jasper Quinn chucked out for boarding in the first period. Ben Scanlon, 5 goals and 63 shots, is still pretty respectable. Aaron Taylor back this night. He gets the win for the Devils. That leads us into the upcoming weekend then. Only 2 games on Saturday in South 1. 5 p.m. down in Gosport. Solent take on the Swindon Wildcats in that Halloween game with those very, very devilish jerseys for Alex Murray's side. 7 p.m. down in Cardiff Bay in what is not going to be a fun journey, I think, for the Buccaneers. But Cardiff will host Romford on Saturday night. Sunday then, Slough take on Romford at the Hangar at 5:45. 6 p.m. face-off at the Riverside. It was a big game last week. Can Chelmsford respond this week? Having lost to Slough, can they find a way to beat Streatham? 6:15 at the Oxpens for the Oxford City Stars and the Cardiff Fire, as opposite ends of the M4 do a little bit of battle. And 6:45 p.m. at the Thunderdome, the MK Thunder, who hopefully will have found an actual goalkeeper from somewhere rather than trying to play James Bryan again, will take on the Swindon Wildcats. We just scoot our way back to the top of the fantastic box scores document, of course, provided by the wonderful Joe Scutts of NHLstats.wordpress.com. As we can see there, two teams still perfect, though of course Streatham have played a few less games, but Slough are currently top on 24 points. Solent also have 24 points, but have played 4 more than Streatham, who have 21 points from 7. Chelmsford 18 from 8, followed by Invicta, who have 18 points and have played 10 games. Then come Romford, Swindon, Oxford, who are in 8th place in a playoff spot by virtue of actually having won. And then Cardiff and Milton Keynes, both teams yet to record a win. Cardiff have 8 goals from 7 games. MK have scored 12 in 11 and have already conceded 102. Streatham lead Cup Group A. Slough and Chelmsford are Slough lead Cup Group B at the moment. Though Romford still sniffing away at the heels and have a game in hand over Chelmsford. You would still probably bet on the Chieftains making their way through that one. Wonderful is the wrong W word people would call me. What your parents call you, I don't know, Joseph, but I still think you're great, if nothing else. That was Lee Valley, Tom Davis in that. Don't think Brown settled in Romford. Shame, as I think he has potential. I definitely think so as well, John. But yes, unfortunately, sometimes it's the wrong person in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the nature of British hockey, sometimes you have to just move on to the next thing. We move on to our next thing as well, which is North 2. And well, the Kingston Sharks ran the Telford Tigers pretty close in this one, but not close enough. The champs are champs for a reason. A 6th win on the bounce to start the year for Telford, as owned by 5-3 at the world's most versatile arena. A couple of goals there for Philip Supper, as well as Lewis Smith, Paul Davies. It's 2 for Lewis Smith, 2 for Lewis Smith, 2 for Philip Supper, and 1 for Paul Davies, and then goals for the Kingston Sharks, 2 from Tom Humphries. A hat-trick from Tom Humphries. How frustrating is that to get a hat-trick and still not win? But as we can see here, quite a bit of a sizable difference on the shots there, 50-31. This is why Telford are so good in this division. A respectable though from Dom Smith, 45 saves on 50 shots is nothing to be sniffed at in that one. Elsewhere on Saturday evening, another very, very close game, but one that the Coventry Blaze managed to pick up and win. They go 4 from 5 to start the campaign. Bradford, of course, getting their first win the other week, but not to be here. Their 4th loss of the season as they lose in the Skydome by 2-0. Tom Brooke-Smith and Max Palm getting their first. Their respective first goals of the season. I love the first goal. The first goal there, just assisted by Sam. No surname. We'll just call him Sam. So fair play to him on that one. We'll assume that seeing there that it is Sam Prosser. A 7-shot shutout for Hayden Laverick. 7. Jack Mikavicius with a 41 save performance for him. But Saturday, Telford obviously winning meant that Sutton needed to do the business as well, and they do. They managed to get a 4-2 win at home against the Altrincham Aces to go 9-0 and keep them on pace with Telford at the moment. Altrincham, though, do go a goal up in this one. Sam Dunford with the early strike, and it was 1-0 to Altrincham until the end of the second period, where Sutton got 3 goals in about 5 minutes. Lawson Gladsby, Morgan Gladsby. Actually, no, apology, I'll learn. Tariq, that's Altringham's second goal, so it was 2-2 at the end of the second period. Anthony Reid, Elliot Meadows and Callum Russell getting the late ones there. Sutton with another win. As you can see, though, pretty tight game, all things considered. 28 shots to 20. I mean, fair play to Altrincham. I know they've always kind of been sort of in the middle of the pack of that North 2, certainly in the time that we've been covering them here on the What's Current stream, but good for them to kind of, to go into Ice Sheffield, really put up something of a big fight there, even if they don't kind of come up with the goods. It's performances that can kind of lift the spirits, even if you don't always get the result. There was definitely no result for the D-side Ducks. The Sheffield Titans with a 6-0 shutout win over North 2's newest team there. Simon Williams, Rory Ross Doherty, Mark Illingworth, Harry Roebuck, Aidan Dancer, and Finley Herity, that's what we're going for. I'll learn how to read again on that one. But yes, it's pretty comfortable 6-0 win out, 42 shots to 23. A good shutout win there for Nathaniel Bell, who 68 as a goalie. That's also very, very odd. What is it with North 2 and goalies wearing weird numbers? In the IHL, Steelers 3, Stars 1, 3 and 89 seconds for Sheffield from Balmas, Watling and Usula. That's the danger of the Sheffield Steelers, isn't it? And I'm off to change that error now. Sorry, Joe. Dylan has joined us, of course. As we said, Dylan was the one sort of breaking the news as far as we're aware of Zach Yokoyama to Romford. We still await the confirmation from the club on that one, but that's Dylan reporting that one. He's been to Spoons, where he should have told us. We'd have all done the thing on the app and ordered you bowls of peas and things like that. Either way, from Sunday, Altrincham didn't get the result on Saturday, but they do get it on Sunday. They win by 7-4 in Bradford against the Bulldogs. Certainly Bradford getting themselves 4-2 ahead in this one before the Aces come roaring back, which is a pretty solid result all in all for them. Like I say, a pretty solid performance even in defeats to Sutton on the Saturday evening to then win away. Very good for them as well. Sam Dunford, Jake Frost, Ollie Gotts, Josh Milnes, Ronnie Grimes, David Kamenicek and Malachi Budd with the goals for the Aces. A hat-trick from Kai Hathaway, another hat-trick in defeat this weekend in the NIHL, and a goal from Lucas Vine in a losing effort for the Bulldogs. And then on Sunday, well, Nottingham, as Dylan said in the chat, Nottingham were ahead. They were 2-0 to the good. And Telford woke up in the second period and decided that they'd had enough of that nonsense, as they were 3-2 ahead by the end of the second period, having been 2-0 down at 34:06. Telford are ridiculous, I think, is probably the only way to describe that. But signs of life again from Nottingham, so fair play to them. Fair play to them on that one. As you can see there, Jake Fisher and Tyler Summerton with the goals for the Lions. Goals for the Tigers coming from Lewis Smith, Paul Davies, Connor Keys, Ollie Hunt, Kyle Watt and Philip Supper. Matt Byrne getting the win with 39 saves. 53 saves for Joe Nolan in defeat. Pretty mad, all things considered. Some of the lopsided goal shot counts are crazy here. Either way, this weekend in North 2, Sutton versus Kingston at 4:40 at Sheffield. 5:30 p.m. in Shropshire for Telford versus Deeside. I would not fancy my chances for the Ducks on that one. And Coventry, well, can they get more than 2 goals? I don't suppose it matters if you win 2-0 every game, but they will host the Altrincham Aces at 6:30 p.m. at the Sky Dome. Sunday at Sheffield, 5 p.m. start for the Sheffield Titans and the Kingston Sharks. And then we'll be back on YouTube, I'm sure, 7:20 p.m. for the Nottingham Lions 2 against the Bradford Bulldogs. Can the Bulldogs get their second win of the season, or will the Lions finally manage to get themselves some extra points on the board? We scoot to the top then, just have a quick look at the North 2 table. As we mentioned, 2 teams still perfect, Sutton and Telford, with who have won all of their games. Sutton have only conceded 9 goals in 9 games to start the season. Absolutely unreal numbers from the Sting. But Telford, of course, with 2 games in hand. Billingham in third with 15 points, followed by Coventry, who have 2 games in hand on the Buccaneers. And then comes Altrincham, Kingston, Sheffield and Bradford to technically round out the playoff spots. But as you can see there at the bottom, 3 teams on 3 points, albeit the Lions have played 3 extra games. But the Ducks and the Bulldogs could be looking at a pretty sizable battle for that final playoff spot in North 2. In the Cup in North 2, the Sutton Sting have already qualified for the semi-finals. It's pretty much going to be a race that looks like the Billingham Buccaneers will win in Group A. In Group B, Coventry have won all of their games, as have Telford at the moment. So we will see what happens when those 2 sides eventually butt heads. It's looking, again, like a 2-horse race in that one. I tuned in halfway and 0-0, then watched the Lions get 2. What a start in that game for Nottingham. Yeah, they did pretty well, all things considered. So we'll work through that. Yes, Dylan, we mentioned about those bits and pieces, and yes, we've already talked about who Tom Brown's replacement is going to be, because that one was pretty telegraphed, all things considered. We did also discuss where Tom Brown might end up as well. Either way, South 2. And well, the Canucks had their home opener spoiled by the Haringey Huskies, but they didn't come as close when it came to the trip to Alexandra Palace. Comfortable 6-2 win for Haringey over Cardiff. Cardiff, though, were winning 2-1 just after the half-an-hour mark. Jack Whiting and Zach Shanahan had cancelled out Robert Rayner's goal. But then Peter Toth, James Hepburn, Matt Hepburn, Connor Smith and Jaden Bulkar were finished off the game there to give the Huskies an important 6-2 win in the league there. Morgan Garside facing 52 shots in this one. Dylan Phillips getting the win for the Huskies. Elsewhere, Peterborough, who've had a fantastic start to the year, they're still perfect after this game. 6 from 6 as they won against the Oxford Rising Stars by 6 goals to 2. One where Oxford nearly fought their way back into it, pulled it back to 4-2 late in the second period before Peterborough ultimately stretched themselves and got themselves out of the game. Of course, a lot of guys from last year's Division 1 City Star side playing for the Rising Stars this year. 2 goals from Nathan Pollard, 2 from Connor Pollard, and goals as well from Dan Martin and Jordan Ho for the Phantoms. Griff Eden Parish and Josh Oliver with the goals for the Rising Stars. Only the one netminder for the Rising Stars, Caleb Poole, facing all 37 shots Vinny Graziano gets the win for the Phantoms. There's something of the Div 2 local derby. Invicta and Chelmsford, of course, we know. Never the biggest of friends, but it's advantage Invicta in South 2 for this season as they beat the Warriors by 3 goals to 2. Was tied up late in the second period, but then a goal early in the third from Brad Gutteridge, proving to be the decider. Invicta moved to 4 and 1. Chelmsford dropped to 1 and 3 in this one. And then the champs were back in action. Just the third game of the season for the Guildford Phoenix. They travelled to Bristol and very much took the bark and the bite out of Bristol in this one. An 8-2 win, a nice comfortable victory there for Stuart Potts' side. Bristol feel like they're sort of transitioning a little bit away, sort of more into kind of the mid-table side, looking for playoff success more than the league title, which of course they beat the Phoenix by a couple of years ago off the basis of awarded results. Tom Asprey and James Wood for the Pitbulls in this one. Goals for the Phoenix. A hat trick for Paul Petts was a 5-point night. As well as goals from 2 from Josh Abbott, 1 from Josh Sherrington, 1 from Jared Vigar, and 1 from Sol Studley. Jake Studley in the net faces 26 shots and concedes 2. Aaron Burton, 8 goals on 37 shots is less than ideal, I think we'd say on that one. Not tons of action in Div 2 last weekend or this weekend. One game in the Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup. Peterborough take on Chelmsford at 6:30 p.m. in Bretton. A 7 p.m. face-off down in Gillingham for the Invicta Mustangs and the Guildford Phoenix. That's League and Cup. Also League and Cup action this Sunday in Gosport. 5 p.m. for the Solent Junior Devils against the Oxford Rising Stars. And 5:30 p.m. just league-only action this time between the Lee Valley Lions and the Peterborough Phantoms. Oh, there we go. Pause has all froze there for a little bit, but there we are. All done. All 5 divisions of the NHL. Every result, every goal covered. Which means, of course, here on the What's Current stream, what do we do when everything's done? We open the door. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anybody wants to chuck into the chat, please do. Hockey-free chat, whatever anybody wants to talk about. We kind of open bits and pieces there. He says as he desperately tries to see whether we've had any more results and bits and pieces. Nothing immediately on that one. But yes, Dylan. Like I said, we talked a little bit about where Tom Brown could possibly end up. It should be said. So just like I say, no immediate news that's kind of come out in the last little bit as we've been chatting. Andrew, of course, has turned up as he usually does and bots us a solid with the results from the WNIHL. Then from the elite league. Then from Saturday, Whitley Bay Beacons 3, Streatham Storm 5, Queen Bees 3, Kingston Diamonds 1, Solihull Vixens 8, Guildford Lightning 3. And then a pretty good weekend all in all for the Queen Bees, but the Queen Bees are devastatingly good. They win by 7 goals to 1 on the high road against the Streatham Storm. Solihull with the shutout win in Hull. Kingston 0, Solihull 3. Vixen top of the league with 8 points from 4 games. Queen Bees second with 6 from 3. And they meet this weekend at Solihull, 26th of October, 6:25. Hey, if you're in the area and you need a game to go watch, that is going to absolutely bang. As well, what I don't know whether people have noticed as well is that Andrew has been popping up and has been doing the announcing and the music for the Queen Bee. So fantastic to see Andrew getting an opportunity to do something fun. He's obviously we can't profess here at BOTW to being anywhere near as good as we should be when it comes to women's hockey in terms of the amount of coverage that we're able to give it, because I'm just kind of one man. But fair play to Andrew. He's enjoyed it. He's gotten stuck in, and he's like I say, he's been announcing a few games for the Queen Bees, which is really awesome to see. So if you're down in Slough when the Queen Bees are playing, go support Andrew. But like I say, if you're around the Solihull area this Saturday, then you got the opportunity. That's going to be a pretty impressive game. A lot of GB and international talent going to be on display in that game. And yeah, women's hockey is not non-contact. It's just non-checking. And I'm pretty certain they'll check each other anyway. Also, the Moore brothers have been great at the Sapphire. Shame we've not seen Jack Goodchild yet. Any idea why? No, not a clue. The thing I would say is again, it's just kind of availability of bits and pieces, and maybe maybe Good Charles just had other bits and pieces on. Like, he's not a, like it's a secondary gig, but also as well, has he been nursing an injury that he's been keeping himself fresh for Slough games? Hard to say. But yeah, I genuinely don't know. It'd be pure speculation at that point as to what Jack Goodchild is doing. But yeah, it's a shame he's not had that opportunity for the Jets just yet. Should be certainly. I would be interested to see how he does in that Romford lineup. But it's also a case of where. Like, if you've got both more brothers, like if you're going to bring up guys to kind of do third line bits, it's Goodchild is the least out of the four that Slough have on two ways with Romford. Goodchild is the least adept at doing that third line role, and that's not to say he couldn't do it, but again, it's using guys in the positions that they're good at to their advantage. And actually, where both Moore brothers, where I'd argue both Moore brothers are a bit more adept at kind of doing a bit more of a grind line-esque game, it's 100% not Goodchild's MO, whereas it is Luke Smithel's. So if you're borrowing three guys to put in a line, then you can maybe do it that way. It depends what you want to use them for in that sense. But yeah, like I say, I think it's using guys in the right situations to the best of their ability. But as we saw, if you turn up and you play for Romford, Adam Leishram gave the Moore brothers plenty of ice time. Seb Moore has an overtime game-winning goal this season. So I don't know what to tell you on that. I am, however, going to have a drink quickly because my throat's getting a bit parched. He's Winchester-based and I believe doing some kind of teaching degree, which may factor into availability. And Winchester's teaching bit wouldn't be the first hockey player to be a graduate of sort of teaching-related bits and pieces of Winchester, because the other one would be Jeremy Cornish. So that'd be a fantastic duo of hockey players to sit down together about teaching. But this is also true. If you're trying to do a teaching degree and play hockey, you do wonder where you sort of fit bits and pieces into that. Hey, maybe with the holidays, maybe we see him. But certainly, Goodchild's certainly a player with the quality to play national if he chose to. There we go. Ooh. Parched, I think, is the best description there. Of course, the other bits of news. Of course, we've seen that there is a new sort of apparel bits and pieces for Great Britain, for Team GB for ice hockey. Oxen Sports getting involved. Of course, you do lots of rugby teams and bits and pieces like that. I have to confess, I don't really like the logo. I was actually looking forward to it because one of the things people sort of say to me is, do you buy sort of hockey apparel? And it's nothing against Crosscheck or any of the other kind of sort of designers of bits and pieces. I haven't found designs I actually really like, and I didn't like a lot of the GB stuff. And unfortunately, like I say, the new logo it just isn't for me. I don't really like it much. I'm very picky. I'm very, very picky when it comes to bits and pieces like that. So yeah, unfortunately, not for me on this occasion. But we live in hope. We live in hope one day. On that front. What we will do very quickly, let's just have a quick squiz when it comes to everybody's friend Liam Kirk, and just quickly have a check as to what his bits and pieces are doing. He says he's managed to miss the website. There it is. Because we do know that the Iceman did play last night a 5-4 win in overtime over the Wolfsburg Grizzlies. I'm trying to just find the actual game sheet here because it's a bit hard to read. I cannot see where, I don't know, Liam Kirk not getting a point in that particular instance. Dear me, this I was going to say the DEL website for these bits and pieces is absolutely atrocious. Let's quickly. I'm going to quickly jump to Elite Prospects. So let's just have a quick look at how Kirk is doing so far. Because at the moment, the Iceman Berlin are top of the DEL. They are 12 games played with 28 points, so they could be overtaken technically by Ingolstadt, because Ingolstadt have got one game less than are only 1 point behind. So Berlin are in a pretty comfortable position, all in all. And if we have a quick squiz at the stats then. So Liam Kerr currently sits 6th in team scoring, 12 games played, 5 goals, 5 assists, which has him, so 6th on team scoring for a British player in the DEL, which is pretty impressive in and of itself. Kirk is 24, so also pretty impressive. All things considered, but yeah, so not a terrible start. I know he sort of bounced a little bit between the first and the third lines as well. So just looking at that for the Eisbären, so Gabriel Fontaine and Leo Thirdl both on 17 points through 12. Zach Boychuk with 14 points from 12. Ty Ronning has 13 from 7, though I do believe he got himself hurt. And then both Kirk and Freddie Tiffels, German international, both on 10 points from 12. Tiffels is 6 plus 4, Kirk is 5 plus 5. So kind of, so towards the top end of their scoring, certainly doing the business at the moment. I'm trying to find where he's gone. Where is young Mr. Herdler? On that list, there he is, Eric Herdler, which is the son of the Eisbären legend Frank Herdler. With one goal in 12 games from the bottom lines there, but yeah, he's ahead of Marcel Noebels, and for people who are familiar with German hockey, Marcel Noebels is a very, very good player, former Flyers draftee, played in the AHL, played in the WAHL as well. International play with Germany for a really, really long time. Very, very high quality player, and Liam Kirk is keeping pace and scoring points at a better clip than Marcel Noebels is currently. That's insane. That's really crazy to think about. Just going to click some buttons and just close some bits as we're talking. There we go. Either way, 20 past 9. 20 past 9 at the moment then, with a few bits and pieces to go. Oh, there we go. Went a bit blocky for a second there. The encoder's having a funny 5 seconds. You going to come back? There we go, that's a bit better. But yeah, so all things considered, like I say, bit of a change up this weekend. So no hockey for me because, like I said, family commitments. Go see my dad, check in on him, make sure he's okay. He gets to see his grandson, which is pretty awesome. I get to see him as well, which would be pretty cool as the grand Airbnb tour of Ramsgate continues for the family here. But like I said, no game write-up, no banners on the road this weekend, but instead you do get the new Hockey Stories piece. Really, really, it was a bit of a slog to write just because it took a while to kind of pin down the last interview for it. But when it was all done, it was written quite quickly. It's about what it's like, what it feels like, and making that decision to retire from hockey. And I did kind of want to get it out a little bit earlier than it's come out, but it's just the way it is sometimes. Better to wait and make sure it's good. And also it's fun I think it's good to kind of think about, whilst we're sort of in the midst of talk, of watching it, and thinking about it as well. Actually, some of these discussions might be going on in players' minds right now, and to kind of get that idea. But interview two really, really interesting people, very different stories, very different experiences with retiring as well. So I think people will enjoy it. I think people will hopefully like it. And I will, and like I said, it will come out next Tuesday. So not trying to get it out around the same time where a Banners on the Road would come out, so that people kind of get that regular bit of content every week. And then we can, and like I say, the weekend after that, of course, will be the 2nd and 3rd of November. And my game is already set for that weekend. I will be in Gosport on Sunday, the 3rd of November, for the Solent Junior Devils and the Cardiff Canucks. Want to see the Canucks with my own two eyes. Cardiff is a pig to get to and back in a night from Southampton. So the fact they are on my doorstep means that, yes, I will be back in Gosport, but a very, very different game. I should hopefully get to see all of the exciting youngsters from the Canucks in one place at one time. Of course, we know that Ian Granadia Tirado has left the Canucks and the Bees to go play in America in the USPHL. But should be a lot of fun. I'm really interested to see whether Max Berbrea travels. I want to see Max Berbrea in Gosport. I want to see Trevor Hendricks in Gosport. Kirk was on the line with Nobles and Blaine Byron against Mannheim. Also got good BP time. Yes, of course, Tom for folk went on had a little bit of a hockey trip to Berlin. You got to see both rinks in Berlin in a weekend. Well, both rinks the Ice Bearing news. There's about 5 rinks in Berlin. So Kirk very clearly, very heavily trusted, and that trust is being rewarded. 10 points in 10 in 12 in the DEL for a 24-year-old British player. Take that all day long. Last call, ladies and gentlemen. Last call for questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anybody else wants to chuck into the chat before we go. But yeah, like I said, should be a good weekend. Some really, really interesting games. Like I say, huge weekend for Chelmsford now. Having lost to Slough at home last weekend, Streatham at home this weekend. If they lose, you have to wonder about the mentality going forward, because that feels like a massive advantage to both the Jets and the Red Hawks. Not just in points total, given the 3-2-1-0 point system this year, but also from a mental standpoint. Nice bit of water. But yes, otherwise, not much else that we can kind of see at the mo. Like I say, just looking what else we got there. Bosun beating Klagenfurt 7-2 in the Ice Liga. Yeah, actually, that's one thing I'll mention, actually, just because I've seen it's come up, and I know he's got a new episode out. Craig Baird, Canadian History X, Pucks and Cups. If you like your hockey history, do go check it out. His latest episode is on Chubby Power. He's history of playing in Quebec. He also was a Canadian parliamentarian, and I know he's sort of like a war hero. I can't remember off the top of my head if he got a Victoria Cross or not, but it's certainly very highly respected man. Craig does really, really good in-depth work, so definitely go check that out if you're interested. No more for no more, in which case we will call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL. Join me on my weird and wonderful journey through through hockey here in Britain with the Banners on the Road series. Like I said, takes a brief pause this weekend because the other thing you can check out is our Hockey Story series. Long form pieces of content both in the written and the audio-visual format. The next one, of course, will be coming out next week. That is a nice long written piece, something you can grab a cup of coffee and sip a cup of tea, or even get a Ribena and sit down and just enjoy and have a read and enjoy. We go from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war and beyond. The old back catalogue of the old BOTW podcast is there, as well as our free to download ice hockey game, Dice Hockey. That's, like I said, you can play it with bits and pieces around your house. It's free to download from the website. All I ask is that if you do enjoy it and you do download it, then please do chuck a few quid in the direction of Parkinson's UK, because my dad has Parkinson's and Parkinson's dementia, and it sucks, and money towards research and a cure would be massively appreciated. But you have got tons and tons of stuff, 13 and a half years worth of it. It's actually 13 and a half tomorrow, because tomorrow will be the 24th of October. So yes, 13 and a half years tomorrow's worth of stuff over on bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, facebook.com/bannersonthewall. If you like all getting the bits and pieces through your Facebook feed, all the links, all the stories, everything we do goes on to there if you want it in your Facebook feed, so go hit like on there. Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, is at BannersOTW, the best place to keep tabs on me and my kind of rolling commentary about British and world hockey, and the odd occasional piece that doesn't even make it onto the website sometimes goes on Twitter. And of course, there's our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Banners on the Wall is never going behind a paywall, but if obviously life costs money, and if you'd like to chuck a few quid into the meter to keep the lights on and the wheels turning, it's massively appreciated. If you don't have money, don't give money. If you'd like to give money, then buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. But if you can't afford it, the best thing you can do, just share bits and pieces out, get eyes on it. The more people we have looking at the National League and the NIHL, means the more people that can kind of come in and enjoy it and will not look at it as this sort of weird abstract thing that some people seem to. But yeah, there's tons and tons of good stuff. Like I say, if you like BOTW, share our stuff. But there's lots of other folks around from covering all kinds of divisions. Enjoy what you enjoy. But the one thing I'd say, if you do enjoy something, share it. Don't like. I know people like to like things and save stuff for later. But if you really do enjoy something, share it around, because you never know the person who might be looking for that next thing to watch, and they can find their next new favourite person, whether it's me, whether it's anybody else. So yeah, just like hit the retweet button, hit the share button on Facebook if you enjoy something. It's always appreciated by those of us who kind of create content for folk. But yeah, it's all well and good. But of course, the thing is, you don't have to remember any of those links because you're watching us on YouTube. And down there in the description is all the links to everything BOTW related. And of course, the other big thing you need to do, which if you haven't already, is hit the subscribe button on the BOTW YouTube channel. Not only do you get this show every week, but you've got all of our videos from all of the years gone by, game reports, interviews with the movers and shakers of British hockey, players, coaches, owners, DOPs. An absolute treasure trove's worth of stuff here. And of course, the BOTW YouTube channel, the home of the NIHL's best and only live show that covers all 5 divisions of the NIHL structure. That is here, Wednesday nights, 8 PM, the BOTW What's Current stream. Thank you very much, everybody. Great to be back on our usual time slot when I'm not feeling like I want to be ill. Although, like I say, because no beer tonight because it's a school night, obviously, and I've got work in the morning. So yeah, when I get down to Ramsgate on Friday evening, I'll probably have a can or something like that and keep tabs on games and stuff. But just massively appreciative of everybody as well. Like I said on Friday, a lot of people dropping me lines, checking in, making sure I'm okay, Facebook messages, Twitter messages, just checking in on stuff. So, it is appreciated. I think we've got a nice little kind of community going. Let's keep growing it, I think is probably what I'd say. But yeah, so some, like I say, no hockey for me with my own 2 eyes. It'll be on laptop screens this weekend, but wherever you enjoy it, I hope you do enjoy it. Be happy. And if you can't be happy with them wherever you are, please do everything you can to please be safe. As my friend Scotty Wars would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. Enjoy it, folks, like I say. And like I'm having this weekend, if you need to have a weekend off, have a weekend off. The sport keeps turning without us, and it'll be ready for you when you come back. Luckily for me, I just don't have to wait too long. Have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy your hockey where you find it. Take care, and we'll see you next Wednesday night at 8 PM for the next What's Current stream.